Well, here it is, the Be Quiet 900 case, revision 2, that actually I've been keeping an eye on for some time now as a potential candidate for my main PC. I've actually had the case for my main PC for a really long time now, I'd say 2003. And actually it's right over here. I feel bad that none of my videos have never actually properly introduced this case, besides when I was doing the review for the Samsung S70 Pro. And this computer actually does have one of those little SSD drives in it. And well, a beautiful case, all aluminum. I believe this brand was Kingwing, and I bought it 2003, 2004. I can't remember which one it is, but it's one of there. And obviously a very, very old case. Power supplies are still actually on the above part, and this case actually only has 80mm fans. So definitely the airflow is not the greatest. And of course, as the CPUs and video cards get more and more powerful and even hotter, this case definitely is struggling a little bit when I start doing some high-end gaming. So definitely much more potential, better airflow in this case, having a 140 in the back and two 140s in the front with the potential of a third one on top. And of course, some even on top of the case itself. This actually would be a really good case to replace it with. I actually did have to be quite a bit picky, because obviously my main PC, you definitely want to throw in a really good case for your rig there. Seems like this is the one that will potentially actually do it. I do plan to use a DVD drive, believe it or not, a DVD burner drive. I even changed that to a Blu-ray one day with my primary PC, so I actually did need the potential optional drive bays up here, which this actually has, and I'll go ahead into that in more detail as soon as I open this case up and take this tempered glass off. One thing I immediately noticed is that this tempered glass actually has a film that protects it from scratches and other whatnot, which is something I did appreciate. The 700 case and the 600 Be Quiet case that I got in the last few months did not actually have that on there, and I just found that a little questionable. You know, it could get scuffed, even though obviously tempered glass is a little tougher to scratch up, and there was no scuffs or anything on it. You can actually see some, it could just be the styrofoam, but just showing you an example right there. So this is going to be a wonderful case. I'm going to go ahead and get this tempered glass panel off and take a look inside. You can already see the accessories kit in there, as well as a LED strip that this case actually does come with. So here is the case with the panel off. I did take the little accessories boxes out. These actually were tie wrapped to the back of the case, and actually I did notice that this one I think was meant to be in here and tie wrapped, but unfortunately one of the tie wraps gave way, and of course that's why this thing was actually bouncing around a little bit as I was transporting it home. Not a big deal though. I mean, it's not like there's glass or anything in here, but could have been a little disastrous if it was banging against the tempered glass. However, it's cardboard, so I mean the space isn't in here that much to be bouncing around the whole place, but I'll probably just make sure all the fans and everything are okay. A lot of space in here. Here's the area where you would put the power supply. I did see a lot of complaints that this is actually a little, got really bite your teeth a little bit to take the shroud off and install your power supply, which I'll probably look into myself. And here's Silent Wings fan right back here, as well as two in the front. These can be moved up and down a little bit if you'd like. As I said, this I believe is removable, so you can actually probably go ahead and put another fan in there. I'm not sure if a 140 will fit in there, but you can probably have the option of putting a couple of 120s in here if you like as well too. I do plan to move this fan just a little bit lower so it can cool down any hard drive that I'm going to plug in here. And obviously power supply, but the power supply has its own cooling. As well as up here, you also have a tray here, which I believe is removable, as this top piece here is removable as well too, so you can actually put a couple more fans, but I believe more of this is really more for just putting a water block and a radiator in there along with your fans. Interesting thing about this case is if you look back here, you see these where the power supply would be. Not particularly a big fan of this design, if you guys remember what I mentioned about that Lee & case in another review. Your power supply will actually not be sticking its butt out here, but this is actually this little extension will connect to your power supply inside the shroud, and you know, this is how basically it's going to work. But one kind of advantage that people they did mention here is that you can actually, you see these little slits here, these are actually all separate pieces, and you can actually take one of these out and have the whole tray go down a little bit or even more, depending on if you want to make more room up here for your radiator and whatnot. So a very interesting concept. I'm obviously not really going to do that. I don't have any water cooling. I will probably get another one of these 140 fans and put one up here just for more outtake. This is how we're shooting some air out. Just want to put another one up here, which, you know, can be limited. This is something I'm a little confused with. You know, you can actually put fans up here, but where's the air going to? There is this little slit here, as well as this area back here, so that'll definitely help out with that. So ventilation in this case is a little questionable, you know, whether air is going out, with the exception of this one, but definitely coming in. As you can see, this door here is completely blocked off. No, it opens, by the way, and I'll show that to you in a moment. The fans will actually be sucking in air only from these little vents here, and of course there's another one on the side. So that's another little option if you want on a really hot day. You can also, if you wanted to, you didn't mind, you can also open this door up. As a matter of fact, why don't we take this off, and you can see that this door actually opens up, and you can actually see here the two fans with a filter. Let me get this box out of the way so I can actually tilt this thing. This case inside the box weighs a good 30 pounds, but it's not so much the weight, it's just the size. This thing is massive. You'll see here the filter, which is removable, which I actually really like. And you can actually even take out the filter even while the computer's on. And here are your fans. So if you actually had this door open, you actually get a good intake of nice cool air if you have an AC in a room and it's just a really hot day. When the door is closed, obviously your intake isn't as strong, but you still have these vent holes here as well as the other side. Actually, I do notice this is actually definitely bigger than the 600 and the 700, you know, minorly so, but those are your intake for the ventilation. So just something to keep in mind. A little sacrifice you might have to pay here and there for the beauty of it, but actually works pretty well. And of course there's that little goofy option I just mentioned. Unlike the new Be Quiet design, 601 and 801s actually have the tempered glass, so basically like a door that would actually just, you'll basically hit a button in the back and the whole thing will actually remove. This is actually still the traditional, just hanging on these little hinges here. So once you take the screws off, the tempered glass door may actually just literally just fall right off to some extent. Though I have seen some cases that actually don't even have these, and as soon as you take the screws off, the whole thing will actually literally just fall. And the Lian Li case I did a little review on in another video is a good example of that. So this is definitely one step up, though unfortunately the design that I saw in those new Be Quiet cases, you know, this unfortunately didn't absorb it. It would have been nice, but it probably would have required a bit of a whole redesign, revamp of this case. However, this is a revision too, so it would have been nice to see. Unfortunately, it was not present here. Looking over here in the front panel, just a couple of USB connections, your audio connection. Here's your nice power button, and of course even the new 3.1 connection, type C USB connection, which a lot of new phones are starting to use and other new devices for a much faster speed. Here's your reset button, I believe, right? Well, one of these is your reset button, if it is a reset button. That doesn't press, maybe this isn't a reset button. This button over here basically controls the LED strips. If you actually do hook them up and plug them in, or you plug in your own LED strips, this thing will basically swap out through different colors and give you an effect inside. If this case were on display, many people walking by probably wouldn't know what this is for. Over here we actually do have AQ wireless chargers. You can toss on your smartphone here that actually does accept wireless charging and charge your phone up. I mean, not something, kind of an interesting thing to throw on a case, but being that I actually toss on a few things on my case, this actually wouldn't be such a bad thing to actually have. This door were a really nice option here for this case. I gotta tell you, the lightest touch will actually open this thing up. I've actually even tried to just pick up this case for a review, to just flip the case over, and my fingers would just slide along this door, and what do you know, the door opens up. No big deal. I mean, you can just basically just press it right back in. But let's just take another look here inside. And here are your 5 1/4 bays for any potential drive here. Which I'm gonna, as I said earlier, I'm gonna actually put a DVD burner here, which I may eventually change to a Blu-ray one day. Here's your fan grill, your two 140 fans that already come pre-installed, the Silent Wing fans, again, just in case you didn't hear that the first time. And over here is also a fan speed controller. And I'll show you the controller in just a moment. If you actually do hook up your fans there, this will actually control the speed if you want to on low and to high, basically. So kind of another neat option here as well too. Especially on hot days, if you're like, well, I'm going to open these up and set them up to max, so just get all that hot air out from the case and all the cool air from potential air conditioner or, you know, a nice winter day coming in. Let's close this back again. Again, I gotta tell you just how easy it is to open this door even by accident. I bet you once I flip the case over again to show you the other side, my fingers will just go along here and whoops. Taking off the side cover of this case, you can actually see in the inside the foam, the noise dampening foam that Be Quiet actually came up with a really long time ago, and they actually put this on their case here to really just knock down any vibration and noise inside the case and just keep it inside. As well as over here, if you can flip this over, you actually do have the option of installing 2 more 140 millimeter fans on the side if you remove this piece of plastic for a little bit more intake or outtake, depending on what direction you put the fans in. Kind of a cool little thing to put here as well too. I don't plan to use it personally at this time, and the logo's there as well too. But definitely a very neat option to have. I'll show you that again here. To have there. Considering the clearance on the other side of the case, which I'll get to in just a moment, no, you cannot put, I don't believe you can actually put a little rad, unless of course it's very thin, like maybe thinner than an inch, considering that's how much, just how much the amount of clearance you actually do have on the other side. Here's the other side of the case. Over here we can actually see that fan controller that I mentioned earlier. And I believe this actually does have LEDs as well too. So you can actually, this is where you actually hook up your LED strips that came with this case. So the front controller up here that I showed you earlier can actually control the colors and if it's blinking or not, if it does have the same routine and options as the Dark Base 900 case. You can also hook up to 8 fans here. You can already see the 3 fans in this case are already plugged in. I plan to actually plug my fans into the board directly, but you do have that option over here. A little SSD tray over there as well too. And back here is basically where you just have your wire management going on. And something very important, because obviously I did try to do wire management on my older case, on a case that actually didn't really have wire management, and obviously that was really a no-go, but I did what I could. Clearance was always an issue, and you can actually see the clearance here. It's definitely less than an inch, so you're gonna have to be, you know, you definitely do have much more leeway in terms of space and options where your wires can go and turn and tilt and whatnot. But just keep in mind your space here, it's definitely less than an inch, so you know, big thick cables like your 24-pin connector for the motherboard may have a little issue doing turns and whatnot in the back, but just something to keep in mind. Here, over here, we have the little bay areas that you actually put your trays, which I'll show you in just a moment. And actually it does come in the accessory box I took out earlier. Here's one example of a tray, but this is a dual tray for 2 hard drives. And this is actually where I do plan to put my mechanical hard drive, where the fan's blowing a little bit of air onto it. Over here, you actually just push each of these out. Slight pain, but not so bad. I actually really haven't used many of these trays before, but you know, they are interchangeable between all the cases when Be Quiet, so you actually do have some from another case, which I definitely do have a few. You can actually put them in here, and these can go into those cases as well too. So this will actually be pushed out, and your tray with the hard drive already installed will actually just slide in here and then just stick out basically like another another card in the front. Oh, and by the way, you know, I should also tell you that if you actually do use these on the lower part of the area, you don't really have to worry about blocking any potential space for a video card, since the area between the rear of the computer and all the way up to here is like already almost a foot. Unless of course the video card starts to double in size, then obviously you would probably want that space, but I don't think we really have to worry about that too much for now. Side panel, actually, should have mentioned, did actually weigh quite a bit, and it's just held down by the 2 real screws back here, just basically like traditional cases have. Power supply and whatnot will go down here, because we'll have to get into taking off that shroud and whatnot. Look at this PCU shroud. These actually plastic things here actually do come off here. This one and this one can be removed to actually accommodate a 120mm fan. This one right here, which doesn't seem too appealing to actually take off because you'll see the entire grill, and I'll show what that looks like in a moment. You can actually put an SSD, regular 2.5-inch SSD in there. And of course the entire shroud can be completely removed. And unfortunately the manual doesn't really tell you how to do that. There's actually 1 or 2 or 3 screws here along this line here to remove, as well as another screw in the back. I'll try to demonstrate that to you as much as I can. Let me go ahead and get this off, which is a little bit of a pain using one hand, but here we go. So like I said again, 2 screws, 2 or 3 screws if I remember correctly over here. And then there's 1 screw along this piece of iron that's on the back as well too, and then you'll be able to actually lift up the entire thing. Down here you can actually see what I was talking about earlier. The 2 grills for the 2 fans and 1 little area for an SSD as well too. And here's basically where your power supply will be going. Your power supply will connect to this particular unit over here, and this cable will connect to your power supply as an extension that will go towards the rear of the computer, which actually does have a kill switch as well too. Most PSUs actually do have them now anyway. Just want to demonstrate one more time again a little more clearly. There is 1 screw here to move the shroud, another screw here, and on the other side, let's take this lovely thing out yet again. Flip it over. Might be a little easier to demonstrate this way. You see this little hinge looking thing here? There's a screw on this particular hole here, and you can just take that out sideways. Sorry if it's not focusing correctly. But yep, there you go. You can just take 1 little screw out of there and flip the case back over, and you should be able to remove the entire unit out. This thing itself actually does weigh quite a bit too. Quick look at the accessories case here. Just 1 little tray, some screws and Velcro straps. I believe there's another fan grill. This is one of those little bay area to if you were to remove that dual hard drive tray that looks like this in the bottom, you can actually just use this to block it in. Another tray down here, as well as a 3rd tray that's hiding down here as well too. And here's the LED strip. These actually are not foldable, and they actually do use this adhesive to just connect to the side of the case. Kind of was hoping for magnetic. I actually might put a couple more adhesive or maybe Velcro on the back. These things actually do have a little bit of weight to them, and they may actually unfortunately fall off. So I'm hoping that won't happen. And here's your LED cables that will actually hook up to the board or to the controller that was in the back of the case that I talked about earlier. Here's a good look at the inside of the case it's going to be replacing. Looks very old school because it actually is. This case again is over 10 years old, even beyond that. I had actually 2 80mm fans in the front, actually pretty decent and quiet fans, and of course I would rev them up when the case would actually get a little warm, and of course they're a little dusty. Got 2 in the back as well too. I usually rev these up the most so they can actually clear out more air, as well as 1 fan up here, and believe it or not, if you can see, that is a 80mm Be Quiet fan. Actually did blow up some pretty decent nice air, so you know, this case actually had some pretty good airflow for its day, even till now. So actually it was quite impressed that this thing was actually doing a pretty good job. Do have a Be Quiet CPU cooler, which actually did keep the CPU cool. The only thing that really would heat this whole unit up is the video card. Now this is an old classic 980 Ti, because I absolutely refuse to pay $1,000 for a new video card, especially when there are still a couple of little questionable issues on performance and even quality. I won't go into that now, maybe I'll rant about that in the video. Corsair 850, what is this, platinum certified power supply. And you might not have seen one of these in a while, an actual cold cathode blue light. This actually does lighten up the case really nicely. And you can see the all the required stuff that just looks horrible all over the bottom of the case. I did try to clean this up as much as I can, but it's only so limited. I do have a separate sound card here by Asus for, you know, just nicer sound on the games and whatnot. And I am using the 950, if you can see it over there, the 970, sorry, Pro SSD that I did a bunch of reviews on. So one of them's in here. And I do just have a regular, what is it, a 8 terabyte mechanical hard drive for whatnot over here. Not my main boot device, mostly for storage and pictures and videos, mostly movies that do take up a big chunk of space. 64 gigs of RAM, and this is actually an old X99 motherboard from MSI with 5930K 6-core 12-thread CPU by Intel. Now it is actually an old CPU, but still a pretty awesome workhorse. So even though it does use 140 watts, still a pretty fast computer. I do mean to plan to upgrade the board and the CPU for this machine eventually one day, when I actually do plan to keep this computer as an Intel machine, while my second PC will be upgraded to a Ryzen-based PC. And I just haven't found a board and CPU appealing for the moment in terms of performance and price from Intel at the moment. I actually do want to do one with a quad-core, quad-channel memory. So a couple of Intel i7, i9 CPUs are really popular ones these days. They just don't do that. They're only dual-channel. So hoping for a good CPU to come out that's not over $1,000 and isn't being outperformed by something that's almost half the price at the moment. You guys have any suggestions? Let me know. I do have my eyes on a board and a CPU, but unfortunately that CPU does fall under that comment I just said. So you can actually see I did try to do some wire management back here. I did have a little bit of clearance in the back, and the other side, by the way, I can also say is also a clear side panel. So I can actually see, I'll even demonstrate to you. You actually can see the inside, the messy inside on the other side as well too. So you can actually swap these two side panels back and forth, which I actually have done a couple of times. The other side panel has a few scratches on the plexiglass, and because it's actually not tempered, it's all plexiglass back then. And I did actually keep that lesser, nice looking side panel on that side. So yep, so you can definitely see what I'm looking forward to when I say the wire management, the air cooling, everything is just so close together. And even on max speed, these two fans, they definitely do a good job. 80mm fans at high speed, you can just imagine how they sound going 3,000 revolutions per minute. The top one is a stable fan running at I think around 1500, not making too much noise, but still it's just one fan. So I'm really looking forward to having a much better airflow on the new Be Quiet case, with more options for fans. I mean, having some nice intake fans would be great too. These fans get so dusty so fast, even with a filter that I put inside. I didn't introduce the front too much. Over here was a floppy disk drive, which I actually obviously upgraded to USB 3 ports since floppy drives are just gone. These screws here, all 6 of them, would actually come off to take the front panel off, and I can access a little makeshift dust filter that I put here that I usually clean up every so weeks because it does get pretty dusty. Here's my DVD burner, which I'll be swapping for a black cover and putting it into the new case here. There's actually a beige white cover here, not many of these left around. And I guess that pretty much goes for the front of the case. The light does turn on blue when the computer's on, and the hard drive indication is like a little orange-yellow color. So believe it or not, after all these years, neither of them have ever burnt out, and I'm actually very impressed with that. And my job actually did have experience with HP computer workstations. Those LED power light LEDs would burn out within the year, and whew, there were a lot of them. I would say that's probably like a defect right there. So I'm very impressed. I was always worried that would go out too. So here's what I'm looking forward to, and we'll definitely show you the finished product afterwards. We've got to clean this up a little bit too when they rip everything out. Well, here it is, all done. All the parts have been moved from my old case into the new case here, and I had to actually pull the camera back quite a bit, and you can even still see that I don't even catch the entire case. This case is a large behemoth, really, really large, and actually after you put everything in, quite heavy as well too. Let me just go ahead and turn it on here. Couple of noises you'll hear. Obviously there is a mechanical hard drive down here, if I didn't mention it earlier. One SSD, which obviously doesn't make any noise, 2 fans in the front, 140 millimeter, 1 fan in the rear. Also got a Be Quiet CPU cooler as well, and believe it or not, the DVD drive that I mentioned that I actually got this case for, intended for earlier. Well, not just that, this case is actually really beautiful, really large. I did actually install the included LED strips right there, one on the bottom and one on the top. Let's go ahead and get a slightly closer view. Now these LED strips, just so I let you know, do have these little like sticky pads, double-sided sticky pads on the right underneath. I did already install one down here. They're obviously really bright. I didn't really want the bulbs to be emanating in my face because they actually do create a really large distraction, especially reflection possibilities on your computer monitor, since this computer is on my desk. The top one right now I just have temporarily installed. Haven't even used a sticky yet, so it's still temporary. I don't know where I'm actually going to keep it permanently installed in this case just yet. Moving the camera really close to the case. Actually, I'll even put the microphone over there. Pretty quiet. There is a slight hum / vibration sound, which is basically my 6 terabyte mechanical hard drive in the computer underneath the PSU shroud. The GPU fan, this particular GPU does not spin the fans until it's actually heavily in use, and the Be Quiet fans just naturally are just very quiet. One quick little cringe I have about this case is the door is definitely amazing, keeps dust out, protects the dust filters a little bit. It actually does also block a little bit of air circulation. I did notice this during the summertime, that when this computer case, the internal temperature is actually pretty high due to all the hot air. Once I open this door up and I got an AC going in here, I would say the temperature drops a good another 2 to 3 degrees Celsius almost immediately. Another little, I mean, that's not really a big rant, that's to be expected. Obviously the air is kind of being blocked off. But one thing about this door that does get to me, there's actually the most lightest touch will actually open this door. And just to keep in mind, there's actually 2 areas to actually press to open this door, one on the top and one on the lower bottom here. You can actually press one and be able to pull the door out, but then you can actually see that it's a little bit crooked. But I will tell you, the smallest touch will actually open this door, and I find that just a little bit annoying, but not particularly a deal breaker. I do notice that when I actually pick up this computer, when I have to, unfortunately, because this sucker actually weighs a good 40 or 50 pounds, it feels like, but when I actually do pick it up and my thumb is on literally on the bottom trying to grasp for grip, almost immediately the door is partially already open. And over here we have the rear of the case, side panel already removed. And you can actually see one of the best attempts at cable management I see here, but I will tell you it is a big relief from the former case I used to use where I'm literally Velcroing everything together. And it still really doesn't look that great. But over here, all the cables are now hidden back here with the side panel completely blocked off. Now, I will absolutely recommend that when you do this, you really should use the Velcro strips. Actually trying to do your own wire management, one over here, maybe one's, like a little snake going around here on those little beauty panels over here. It turns out to be a little messy, even if it actually does look okay. Putting the side panel back on is tricky, and that was actually my first mistake when I first attempted this. Now that I've pretty much used all the Velcro straps except for one, you can see one's missing over here. Used all the Velcro straps that Be Quiet including with the case. Everything's now this little center spine over here, and the side panel is actually much easier to put in, and of course it actually looks much better. Obviously this area is tended to look messy, so of course it's going to look messy, and the front, as you can see, actually looks absolutely amazing. Over here we do have the fan controller, the LED bulb controller, which I'm currently not using, but I probably will. I did say that I'm going to be getting another 140mm fan on to put on the top to become another exhaust. Once I do that, I will definitely plug in those two exhaust fans into this fan controller so I can actually control them through that little knob setting in the front that I showed earlier. So over here you can actually see the LED lights sort of kind of sneaking out and aiming at you. Over here on top you just see the LED strip just like laying on the top there. Currently, for the time being, that's what I'm just going to leave until I figure out where to actually put it so the lights aren't literally reflecting on my face. Over these panels, again, I may have mentioned them in other Be Quiet case reviews. These panels can be a little bit of a pain to take out if you're actually going to go ahead and install one of those hard drive trays, but I mean, eventually you do get them out. But just keep that in mind, it could definitely be a deal breaker, and sometimes when you squeeze these things, you feel like you're actually going to break them. They are, you know, after all, plastic. This is my mechanical hard drive, doing okay. Does cause a little bit of vibration on the bottom part of the case. Not really a big deal, definitely significantly less than I dealt with in my former case. I would have actually liked if they did have a couple of little rubber washers to kind of reduce and dampen the vibration a little bit, but as I said, it's not really a deal breaker. And power supply is down here. Obviously the cabling is a little bit messy back here. This area is intended to be messy. I'll definitely probably go ahead and just try to clean it up a little bit. You can see here this little cable here for SATA power cable for the DVD drive is completely on its own there, and will look much better once I Velcro it in here. I said it before and I'll say it again, I really got to pull this camera up far back, not too far back, but quite a bit to actually get the entire case, and then I'm still missing a little piece on the top. So absolutely amazing case. I've been using it for a good couple of weeks now. This piece actually was recorded quite a bit, quite a bit later than the other pieces earlier when I unboxed it and just didn't even have anything in the case whatsoever. So really amazed with the case. Has really made a huge difference temp-wise. While doing some gaming, the inside of the case actually doesn't get too toasty just like it used to, touching even the aluminum side panel, just pretty freaking warm, especially around the area where the CPU heatsink is, and that's understandable. So absolutely beautiful case. Be Quiet has really done that again. If I didn't mention it before, that power supply installation, I really wish it was a little bit easier. They really overdid it, over-engineered, as some people like to say. That particular point was a little bit of a mess, just really to get it worked out, but works just fine. PSU shroud, a little bit of a challenge to take out, a couple of screws, but again, looks absolutely amazing. Power supply completely hidden. Some area back there for cabling, which you can see really helped out with some fan cables and whatnot. And the areas for cabling, for cable management, those little access holes are definitely in the right spots. So absolutely amazing case. And so far I'm really happy with it. Just gonna go ahead and open this. Didn't really get a good view before. And there we go, some noise dampening stuff over here. Anyone's wondering why I took the tempered glass off? Well, you guys notice that thing causes a lot of reflection, and right now it's a pretty sunny day here. So unless you actually just want to see the camera and myself instead of everything that's inside. So there you go. If I didn't mention it before, power LED light, obviously, to indicate the computer's on. Hard drive indicator as well too. Some Be Quiet cases these days, some of them on the lower price end may not have them, and I know some other cases probably just don't have them at all. This one definitely does. A bunch of USB 3 connections on the front really make this a pretty accessible case. And of course it does have USB 3 Type C, 3.1 Type C, sorry. Just wanted to fix that little thing. Anyway, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it entertaining. If you actually have this case, let me know your experience with it. Definitely shoot some comments and questions if you got any. I'll probably be getting my hands on another Be Quiet case very soon that was just released. So hopefully I'll be able to do a review on that. If you found this video entertaining, shoot a like, subscribe, Again, let me know if you got any questions and whatnot. Definitely be putting up some new computer build videos for other people, friends, and family. So look forward to it. Take care. Bye-bye. Oh, and by the way, that wireless charger on top of the case, found it pretty useful as well too.